I'm Tommy Thomas. I want to welcome you back to the show, How to Beat the Odds. I'm excited about my guest today, Jennifer Pearson. You know, Roger Holler was on our show a couple of years ago, and he's with the church that involved in a ministry called Mercy Heart. And families of inmates who are locked up in prisons and jails, they come to Mercy Heart and they get mercy. And they feed them and they take their children and they feed them, and they have programs and they work with the families to help them deal with the loss of their husband or wife being incarcerated and help them to get through that difficult time. And then when the person comes out of the prison and all, they help with the restoration of the family, help them get started back on the right road. Well, Roger, we went over and we did a film and we produced a promo for him and the ministry over there, and they were having a baptism that night and a wedding there, and we filmed that, and that's when we met Jennifer. And we talked to her, and that's been several years ago, but I was on the internet and I saw her name pop up and I remembered what an awesome testimony she had of God's grace. Well, she's here today to share that testimony and how God brought her through the world of drugs and sex and all kinds of junk, and almost died, and all kind of terrible things happened. But she felt the Lord at a young age when she was like 7 years old, and she and her twin sister gave their hearts to Jesus in a church. Always felt God's presence. You know, I was that way for a lot of years too, and kept running back to drugs and gambling and all that stuff, but God never gave up on me. He never gave up on Jennifer, and He'll never give up on you or some of your loved ones. All we do is keep praying for them. Let's meet her right now. Jennifer, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Man, we talked before the show, and I know that Dad left early, and Mom, she had some alcohol problems, and
Yes.
there was a lot of junk going on, abuse and things like that. And
Yes.
But when you got in high school and all, you had that experience when you were 7 years old, didn't you, with Jesus?
Yes, I accepted Christ when I was 7 years old.
Your twin sister was with you?
Yes, sir, she was.
All right. Now, here we're going along, and here you are in high school and everything, and when did the drugs and all that kind of the marijuana and all that start entering the picture? Were you in school at that time?
No, I'd already quit school. I got married when I was young. I was 16. I ran away from home and got pregnant and married, and they took my daughter away from me when my ex-husband and his family took my daughter away from me when she was a year old, and because the pain was too great to bear, I started doing drugs and alcohol to not feel the pain anymore.
So now Mom wasn't in shape for you to go there with your baby.
Right.
And they said you couldn't take the baby with you. So
Right.
even though you could visit it, they wouldn't let you out of their sight with your little girl.
Right.
And that really got to you, didn't it?
It sure did. I didn't know how to deal with the pain.
Downward spiral.
Yes.
That marijuana, then what? Ecstasy, cocaine,
All of it.
hallucinogenics,
Everything.
all of that stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Every day.
Every day.
For how many years?
I was an addict for 13 years.
Now here you are pregnant again. You weren't doing drugs when you got pregnant, right?
Well, I quit when I got
You
pregnant.
quit when you got pregnant.
Right.
Okay, now you and Mom had a fight or something. What happened?
Well, she tried to push me down, and I just ended up pushing her down the hallway, and I told her that she wasn't going to be abusive to me while I was pregnant. And then God gave me a vision that all of a sudden I understood my mom's life and why she was the way she was, and I just asked her to, I wanted her to know that I forgave her for everything that happened when we were growing up, and I just asked her if she could please forgive me for the way I reacted.
How'd she react to that?
She didn't say anything, but she heard me.
She heard you?
She
Now
just-
this vision, you said it's like you were sitting there and you just felt a cloud come down or something?
A cloud comes down and it engulfs me. Hmm.
And then you heard the Lord speak to you?
Yeah.
Well, now, your child, you quit doing drugs when you got pregnant.
Right.
But then you were thinking about an abortion maybe?
Right.
What happened?
And so whenever I was thinking about having an abortion, I just contemplated it in the beginning. Excuse me.
That's all right.
And I ended up having a really bad asthma attack, but I do believe that the Lord put me in the hospital because whenever I was in the hospital, I had told them that I was considering an abortion, and so they got me settled in my room, and the nurse came in there and asked me if she could listen to my baby's heartbeat. And I told her, well, yeah, okay. So she was listening to the heartbeat she had the headphones on, and I asked her, can you hear? And she said, yes, I can. And I said, well, can I hear? And she said, yes, you can. And so she put them on, and when I heard the baby's heartbeat, I knew right away that I was going to keep the baby.
She knew what she was doing, didn't she?
God sent her in there. She was an angel. She was.
Absolutely. When you heard that little baby's heartbeat, you knew you were going to have
That was
that child.
it. She's 16 years old now.
Wow. And she's got a little baby,
She
6
does.
months old.
Yes. So she's 7 months old.
7 months
Yeah.
old. And you're a grandmother.
My grandmother times 2.
Okay, your first daughter, she's like 20 now?
She's 20.
And she has a little baby about the same age?
7 months old. Grandbabies were born 6 hours apart.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so now here you are. You stopped doing the drugs. You have the baby. Okay. Then how did you get back into the drug thing?
I guess I just started using a little bit again here and there, just going to across the street.
Okay, now Mom and Grandmother died after this?
No, they were still around at this point.
They were still around, okay.
Yeah, but then after it was not long after my mom died when my daughter was 2, my second daughter.
Okay.
And so when she died, that was just it. The core of my being unfolded, and I just started doing more drugs.
I mean, when you're talking about drugs, you're talking about a lifestyle of drugs pretty well every day?
I'm talking about, yes, acid, alcohol, speed. I did all of that, but then I quit doing everything, and I only did speed, and I did speed for 8 years.
8 years?
Mm-hmm. Every day.
Okay, now, let's go from there. You have another child. How did that happen?
Well, I was in an abusive relationship that I'd tried to get out of, but then ended up back in, and I found out I was pregnant. And so I was really going to have an abortion. It wasn't just a thought. And I tried to have an abortion. I couldn't get any money to have my abortion. And so I was a Christian. I'd been baptized several years before, and I just was having a hard time staying on track. And I just couldn't bring a baby into this life that I had of violent abuse and drugs. And so anyway, I had turned to the Lord, and I asked the Lord, I said, God, I'm at my wit's end, and I've tried everything I can do. And I said, please speak to me through your word, Lord. And so I laid my Bible down, and I meditated, and I opened my Bible, and it was in Judges, and it said, no razor shall come upon his head. And I don't know if you're aware of what an abortion is, but it is the razors that chop the baby up.
Whew, I didn't know that.
That's right. And it says, no razor shall come upon his head. And I was like, okay, Lord, if I look at my circumstances through my earthly eyes, I see no hope. But I'm going to stand on faith, Lord, and I'm going to believe in your word that you're going to turn these circumstances around and for our favor, that things are, I'm not going to look with my earthly eyes, I'm going to look with my spiritual eyes, and I'm going to believe in you.
Now, I know you ended up getting high after that, but let's go back, because you said you had been baptized and everything before this happened.
Right.
How did that happen? I mean, how did you end up getting baptized?
I was going to Mercy Heart. I've been there at that church off and on for 9 years.
Okay.
Now I lead the youth there with the youth ministry.
Okay.
But when I was there, I was feeling led, and I didn't know why, but to get baptized. And whenever, I just felt like it's no big deal. They're going to dunk me under some water, and it's no big deal. But I didn't know why I was feeling led to do that. So anyway, we got baptized. Roger Holler baptized me and my daughter, and she was 8 years old. It was May 2001. And when he said, that I wash you with the blood, and you're the light of the world, and I baptize you in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and when he brought me up out of the water, and so then when we got down out of the tub, and when we were walking down the hallway of the church, to sit in the pews, I literally had felt washed clean. When I had felt God just wash everything away. And I never thought that I would feel that way again. And being baptized was so much more to me than just being dunked under some water.
It's more than just symbolism, because it's like God really just washes you.
He did. I never thought I'd feel that way again.
Isn't that a wonderful way to feel?
Yes, it was amazing.
Sounds like a fresh start.
Yeah, and I was doing really great. Yes, I loved it.
Okay, now after that, how did you actually fall back? So after the baptism and on, you were doing so good.
I was doing great, and God told me that in His Word that I needed to not walk with I needed not walk with anyone who's not walking according to His Word. And I bargained with Him, and I said, "Okay, Lord, I can stay away from everybody in my life, but not my sister. Please, not my sister. She's all I've got." Well, I would go around her, and she'd smoke dope in front of me, and eventually the devil was planting those seeds of thought in my mind, and he was telling me, oh, you can just take one hit. It's okay to take one hit, and it's not okay to take one hit. And I should have never entertained those thoughts, but I did, and I started smoking speed again, and then it's right back to where I started again.
Once you dabble just a little bit, it
all
escalates.
it takes is one
always.
hit.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the devil's always trying to, he doesn't say, why don't you just get totally wasted? He'll say, just do just a
one
little bit, and
hit.
it'll be all
It's
right.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he sifted Peter. He'll sift you a little at a time.
Little at a time. So that's what got me back on drugs. And then I found out that I was pregnant. And then God told me in His Word that no razor shall come upon his head. And so then I got high a few more times after that. And whenever I was sitting there, He's brought visions down over me 3 different times. And this is the 3rd vision that I've had. And it's a transparent cloud that comes down and engulfs my whole body. And I was sitting there, and I just got through getting high, and my arms were resting in my lap. And I saw the vision come down, and transparent arms reached out, and there was a newborn baby swaddled in a blanket, and my arms put a glass pipe in the baby's mouth and lit it. And so I just was so devastated, because when God gives you a vision, He also gives you understanding, and He makes everything very, very clear. And I was devastated. I said, "Oh my God, what have I done?" You know, and so I went in my daughter's room, and I closed the door, and it was really dark, and I cried in there for about 4 hours, and I cried with every cell in my body, everything that I had to cry with. I cried, and I cried out to God, and I said, "God, please take this desire out of my heart, Lord." I said, I don't want it anymore. And I said, "I know this is not the life that you intended for me, God." I said, "I was young and beautiful and smart, and I could have been anything, and I was a drug addict loser." I said, "Please, God, I know you are a loving and forgiving God. Please don't let my baby suffer because of my choices." And I said, "I know that she is your baby, that you are only lending her to me for a time, and please let her be healthy." And
was she born healthy?
Well, God told me in the room then, He said, "Don't ever touch it again, and I will take it away." And I said, "Okay, Lord, I will never touch it again." And when I got up out of the bed to open the doorway, when I came through the doorway, I literally felt demons let go of me. And that was 6.5 years ago, and I've never touched it since.
Okay, we're going to go to our praise and worship. We're going to come back and talk about what you're doing with Mercy Heart.
All right.
All right. We're going to our praise and worship. We'll be right back.
Jesus loves me, this I know. Why does mommy hurt me so? I guess it's just this mess that I've always been. Why can't I do something right? Daddy asks me every night as I close my eyes and dream that He tucks me in. I'm good, I'm bad, I'm happy and I'm sad. I'm up, I'm down. Look at me, I'm a clown, but I'm crying. Inside I'm dying, 'cause I'm just a kid. I'm just a kid. Every day I see my friends go to school, and I pretend that it's me that's in that car and in those eyes. Wonder what I did so bad to make the ones I love so mad and take all the joy and fun out of their lives. I'm good, I'm bad, I'm happy and I'm sad. I'm up, I'm down. Look at me, I'm a clown, but I'm crying. And inside I'm dying, 'cause I'm just a kid. just a kid. And I know it don't look like I'm hurting, but I'm trying to find a way to understand this hell that's all my fault. And I can tell you this for certain, that if things don't turn around, I'm so afraid I'll become what I've been taught. And I can't bear thought, 'cause I'm good, I'm bad, I'm happy, and I'm sad. I'm up, I'm down, look at me. I'm a clown, I'm a pain, I'm a pill, and I can't ever sit still. But I don't need for you to curse at me and kick. What a world where moms and dads and others hit. How I wish that I could make them all just quit. But I'm just a kid. I'm just a kid.
Well, let's pick it up now. So now, here you are. God surrounds you, speaks to you.
I've just been delivered from drugs. He
Just delivered.
told me, don't ever touch the drugs again, and he will take it away. And so I was still in an abusive relationship when that happened. And my boyfriend would still stick drugs in my face and ask me which one smelled better and stuff.
Even though he knew that you wanted to be free from
Yeah,
that.
and he would still do it in front of me in the house, whatever. But anyway, I had applied for a government apartment because he was so abusive that I was trying to get away. And whenever my baby was born, she was 3 months old. She was very sick, and she'd been in the hospital. And when you're in an abusive relationship, there's the tension building stage, the explosive stage, and then the honeymoon stage. Well, we were at the tension building stage. I could tell that he was fixing to be explosive, and so I got really scared. Well, he ended up locking me and my sick baby, she was 3 months old, out of the house. And I went around to the back window and lodged it up, and I got her and put her in the chair, and I climbed in, and he was tearing up everything in my room. And I was hitting the door screaming, don't tear my stuff up, I'll leave. Well, he splintered the door into a bunch of pieces, kicking it into pieces.
Okay, he splintered the door. He was that angry?
Yes, and he came through the door, and I had my little baby in my arms because I thought maybe he wouldn't hit me, and he grabbed me around, not like this around my throat, but he closed his fingers around my esophagus, and he shoved me up against the wall, and he closed his fingers around my esophagus, and my baby's head was in my arm, and her body was dangling, and she's 3 months old. And I was gasping. I could feel my face turn colors. But anyway, the police ended up getting called, and they took him to jail. And the next day, my church had 6 trucks and trailers there, and they loaded everything we owned up in an hour and had us moved. We went to a battered women's shelter the next day, and we were in the shelter for 4 months, and my apartment I had applied for became available. And so we got to move into our apartment. And when I got into my apartment, God just put one foot in front of the other for me. And I hadn't had a job in years. When you're an addict for 13 years, you don't do much working. And so I got to volunteer at the Burleson Pregnancy Aid Center, where they let me do filing and typing tutor and everything to learn to work in an office. And then I got approved to get my school paid for to go to medical billing and coding. And I went to school, and it was just one thing after the other. And I went to school, and the day I graduated from school, I got my job the next day, and it was the very first resume I had handed out.
Wow.
Yeah, and we got approved to build a Habitat for Humanity home, and we've been in our Habitat for Humanity home for 1.5 years, and God has restored all of my broken family and friends and everything tenfold.
Okay, now you told me about going to the store and the police were there, and then what happened about that? When did that happen?
Okay, so my little girl was probably about 5, and I had a friend named Ryan who was running from the law, and he had jumped his bond, so the bond company was looking for him. And a friend of mine worked for the bond company, And he told the police not to come to my house because me and my daughter were there, but that we would have to leave and go somewhere eventually. So we were going to go to the store one day. Instead of going to the store in Haltom City, we went to the one in Riverside, and we thought we were being slick. And so when we went in the store and we come out, and the cops have my car blocked in, and they come in and they take him to the car across the parking lot, and we're standing there watching. And then a car comes pulling up, a police car, and he rolled his window down, and the very first thing he said to me was, you know what you need to do? You need to get God in your life.
He said that?
He did. And then I started crying really bad, and I said, you know what you don't realize is we have gotten God in our life. And I know what this is. The devil sees us getting stronger in the Lord, and he wants to break us before we can get any more stronger. And when I said that, his face illuminated, and he said, you know what, I'm a sergeant. And I don't know if you realize it or not, but I don't do calls like this. But he goes, something told me, God told me I needed to come to this call. And he goes, and now I know why. It's for you and that little girl. And I'm crying really hard because that was the first time in my life that I realized that God loves me.
To send him there, God loves you personally.
You know, you grow up knowing that he loves the world, but when you find out that he loves you, that he would have died for you if you were the only person on the earth, it was life-changing. But so he told us asked if we had a church we were going to, and I had been looking for a church. I'd been to 6 or 7 churches, and I just thought, wow, it's amazing that he would even ask that. And so he prayed for us right there in the parking lot and gave us the card to his church.
This was Christ Church?
Christ Church. It was on Hewlin on Street, but they've moved it now. And so we went to that church that following Sunday morning, and when we got there, 2 little old ladies opened up the glass doors, and nobody ever touched us, but I felt God's arms reach out and pull us up to his chest, and for the first time I could take a deep breath without feeling like there was so much heaviness on my chest. And I realized at that moment that was what I needed all along. Instead of the sex and the drugs and the abuse and everything I've done, that I needed God in my life. And so after that, I was thinking, it just made me think about how wonderful God is, how amazing he is. And I was pondering him, and all of a sudden God brought another vision down. I was just thinking, when I was sitting there thinking about how awesome it would have been to walk with Jesus when he walked. And I had no idea at the time the story of the woman who reached out to touch the sleeve of his robe. And I just thought, just imagine Jesus being right here next to me right now and touching the sleeve of his robe, how amazing that would be. And God reached down and he put his hand around my heart, and he lifted it so high to the sky that I was talking like this for a week. I was literally, every step I took, I come off the ground this high. And I mean, I was
God touched you.
I was full of the Spirit, and he was telling me that you didn't have to walk with me back then. You can walk with me right now.
How awesome.
Yeah.
How awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Wow. And then you went on to Mercy Heart, and you got baptized after that?
I went to Mercy Heart. I got baptized in May in 2001.
Okay.
And my life had been, finding the Lord, doing good, and then stumbling and falling. And it's like when you're trying to walk and get your life turned over to the Lord, in the beginning it's like taking 1 step forward.
2 back.
I was going to say 4 back.
4 back, okay.
And then you take 2 steps forward and 3 back. And then eventually you take a couple of steps forward and you don't take any back. And then you wait on God, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's a process of coming backwards and forwards until you get to the point where he.
I know I did drugs off and on for 10 years or so, and you see people doing drugs and all, and you think, well, are they ever going to stop doing that and all? But sometimes it's a process. Sometimes God does it instantly.
Right.
But other times it's a process and you work through it. But God's always there, and there's people praying and loving people. And
most of my life has been a process.
Yeah.
Most of my life has been a process, but when he delivered me, he took it.
Wow.
And I have not touched it since.
And when you cried out and said, I could have been all these things, now God's got you a good job. You're working in the hospital.
It all. Yes, that's right.
He restored everything.
Yeah.
And your children are doing good. Your 2 beautiful grandbabies.
That's right. My daughters are 20, 16, and almost 6 years old. And then I have 2 granddaughters that are born 6 hours apart, and they are 7 months old.
What an awesome testimony.
Yeah.
Isn't it exciting to work for God and live for Him?
It is, and you know what's amazing is that at Mercy Heart, they see me now, and I'm a completely different person than when I walked in those doors 9 years ago. And when I'm out and people see me that knew me in my past, and they see me now. I just went to a funeral the other day, and I saw a girl that I haven't seen in years, and she said, "You just have God all over you. You just shine in the Lord." And she said, "You just keep your eyes on Him, you know." And I just said, "Oh, I am. You believe that?" But you know that they can see the Lord on me. You know?
Amen.
Yeah.
I want you to look at your camera and just talk to some people out there that have been where you are and just encourage them.
I just want you to know that there's hope wherever you are, whatever you're stuck in your life, that there is no hole too deep that God cannot reach down and pull you out of. There is always hope. You just got to look at Him and remember that no matter how hard the waves are hitting on your boat, He can keep you out of the water. You just got to keep your eyes on Him.
That's the whole thing. Keep your eyes on Him.
That's right. You can't look at your circumstances and think, "God, look how bad my life is."
No.
You got to keep your eyes on the Lord and not what your circumstances say.
He'll take you to the other side.
That's
won't
right, He will.
And that's His plan on the other side.
That's right.
And it's a good one.
Far better than we could ever do.
Thanks for being on our show.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I want to thank you for watching the show. You know, I can identify with a lot of that. I mean, man, I was 30 years old and I never did any drugs or anything, worked out, spent a lot of time in the gym, ended up falling into that stuff because I was around some people that did it that I was close to. Anybody can fall into that lifestyle. But I want to tell you, anybody can get free too when they know Jesus Christ. Well, I want to thank you for watching our show. There'll be a number up at the end of the show. My wife, Latrice, and I, if you'll call it, we'd love to pray for you. You can email me at tommy@howtobeattheodds.com. You can go to the website, howtobeattheodds.com. There are a lot of shows there, people dealing with a lot of different situations like we just talked about today with Jennifer. And Jesus Christ made the difference and set them free. Well, thanks again for watching our show. We'll see you next time on How to Beat the Odds.